Hello guys and welcome to my two-way comparison of the Audeze EL8 closed-back titanium headphones and the Audeze SINE closed-back on-ear headphones. This is over-ear, this is on-ear, both incorporating Audeze's planar magnetic technologies, especially with their phaser design, which allows the speaker to be more efficient. Now, essentially the first model geared towards the portable realm incorporating a planar magnetic speaker was really the Oppo PM3. It was a very successful launch. That headphone pretty much garnered a bunch of fans. It had a very nice, smooth, articulated, linear, natural sound. But the thing with that was, to me, I felt that the treble presence was just not enough and it sounded kind of dull and lackluster. But other than that, it had a very nice, tight, focused sound. The EL8 is essentially Audeze's first attempt at a portable-oriented headphone incorporating the planar magnetic speaker design. However, I really would not call this a portable headphone due to the size of this thing. In terms of the profile, when you're looking head-on, it doesn't really stick out too much, but just the overall profile from the side and just the weight of this just really is not suitable for portable use in my opinion. It does come with two cables, such as this one. This one is the one that terminates into a standard 3.5 millimeter jack, which is capable of being plugged straight into your portable device. So these, in theory, can be driven by a portable device, and they do get fairly loud because of the phaser elements allowing the higher efficiency. This also comes with the same kind of termination. This cable is actually shorter than this one. You can get a shorter cable from Audeze for the EL8s that terminates into a 3.5 if you want to use it for your iDevices. Both headphones also incorporate something called a cipher cable, which is a separate cable that you can purchase, or you can purchase it together in a bundle. So I only have the cipher cable for the EL8s, which this does basically is within the cable itself there is a dedicated DAC to analog, a digital to analog converter, as well as a amplifier embedded into this cable right here, along with a microphone and pretty much your simple 3-button controls for your iDevices. You can also activate Siri as well. Now the cool thing with this is, in theory, it should give you better sound quality than your iDevice can essentially output, but in my experience it wasn't really the case, but I'll get more into that later. So the SINE does come with this same kind of cipher cable, and with the SINE it has two options. I unfortunately could not get the one with the cipher cable, so I got the regular one, and this one only comes with a single cable that terminates into 3.5, but it does not even have a microphone inlay or any kind of controls for like your phones or your media playback. I think Audeze will release a separate version of this cable so you can purchase it separately, but as of now I don't have it for the SINEs. Now on to like the construction quality. So essentially these are both I guess geared towards portable use from Audeze. This is an on-ear design, so it sits on the ear as opposed to going around it. The profile is fairly small, very minimalistic. I like the very sleek design. Both of these were designed by BMW. I believe it's the work groups or the industry groups. I'm not too sure, but essentially the design team is responsible for both of these headphones, and I feel that they both look pretty nice. This just being way too big, but the overall design of the EL8s is pretty nice. The SINEs is also pretty nice as well. The construction is for the SINE is premium actual leather. It's just not fake leather. The quality of the leather feels very nice. The pads, however, is a synthetic leather as opposed to the actual authentic leather, which is found on the headband and the outer air capsule here. The actual joining of this is aluminum. So in theory, this is a pretty good design. The cable right here is a flat cable, basically, kind of minimizes tangling. However, the termination into the headphone is rather unique it terminates like this. So it has a very good strain relief, and it's pretty much impossible to just accidentally yank this cable out of the headphone if the cable was to get yanked on something like that. Um, in theory, this could also be a double-edged sword because you kind of do sometimes want the cable to come freely out. Suppose you're walking in public and then the cable yanks on someone else on accident, and as opposed to the cable flying straight out of this, it's gonna yank the headphone straight off your head, and you don't want $500 headphones flying off your head, destined to go wherever gravity takes them. This not gonna be a fun experience. Moving over to the EL8's construction, I believe I'm not too sure. This is authentic leather, but I'm gearing more towards the synthetic leather on this one. Um, this is definitely a synthetic leather. I believe the AirPads is synthetic. There's no, I mean, authentic leather on this headphone, but this is aluminum. Um, this is aluminum here, and I believe this is a plastic. Oh, also this is a plastic here, where you can see the A sign right here. So I would say the the materials chosen are probably, of course, superior on the signs because of the use of authentic leather as opposed to the synthetic leather on the EL8s. But the overall heft is obviously greater on the EL8s because of its sizing. This goes over the ear. This is a very enveloping fit. Goes completely around the ear, and the seal on this is magnificent. Like, it blocks out incredible amounts of noise. It almost sounds like it has noise cancellation circuitry embedded when you put these on. You really are in your own world when you put these on because of just the lot of there's a lot of depth, and being as this is metal, it has a very good, natural passive isolating capability. And these pads are huge and thick, so you're just pretty much encompassed into your own world when you put these on. The top here is aluminum. So overall, this is a very sturdy headphone. Like I said before, the quality of the materials chosen are not as high as these signs, but overall, both of them are very sturdy. I don't really feel like they're gonna break when I'm handling them. The connection points on this is not like the sign where it's like a natural lock-in position. This is just like a sort of like a lightning kind of port, plugs in like that with a flat. And this is a lot better for me because it can actually fly out if something was to just yank on them, as opposed to this one where it would just yank your headphone with it. They both terminate out of each ear cups, which I personally don't really like because it makes the headphone disappear less than a headphone that just has one wire coming out of either the left or right ear cup. But some people believe that this is better for audio because I don't even know how, but I've heard people say this is better for the audio because each speaker gets a direct termination for the cable, but it's not really any different than if one cable goes in, because it's the same wiring from that cable, but it's just being routed around the headband. But that's a different discussion. Comfort wise, I would say they're both fairly good. However, due to the size and the weight of this does get a little bit hot and sweaty, and it does kind of weigh down on the top of the head because of just, it's not really that much of a clamping pressure, so a lot of the overall weight will go to the top of the head, and eventually that does leave a sore spot up there. Whereas with this, these are very comfortable, probably more comfortable than these because of the lesser weight. But what really prevents these from being extremely comfortable is due to the on-ear designs. For me, just on-ears, period, can never get to that level of comfortability because of the caliper pressure of the ear pads exerting pressure onto the ears all the time. But these for me are more comfortable than this, even though that this is an on-ear. It's just that the size of this and the design of the headband, it doesn't really play too well with my head after a while. I'll probably say about an hour and a half or so. I have to take these off because my ears are getting a little sweaty because of the incredible seal, and the top of my head is a little bit sore because of the weight. Um, Pretty much moving over to the sound quality now. Both of these exhibit that planar magnetic sound where it's very linear in the bass and it's very linear into the mid range. So the overall bleed effect that you get with a lot of dynamic drivers is essentially non-existent with these. Now, in terms of the bass, where they differentiate is that the SINE does not have that last bit of sub bass extension that the EL8s have. In terms of the mid bass, I feel that the SINE is a little bit more elevated, so it kind of has that slope where it comes out from the mid range, and then if you're used to what a frequency response looks like, you'll probably understand what I'm saying. But so it's coming out from the mid range, and then it goes up to the mid bass area, and then it kind of just drops down when it gets to the sub bass. So you get that thumping effect more with these than you get with this, but that visceral, like, fundamental rumble and just the foundation of the bass and the textures and stuff are more present with this, and more they're more satisfying with the EL8s. In terms of the overall composure of the bass and the tightness, I would say that they're roughly on par with each other, but I would probably give the slight edge to the tightness in the bass. This is very hard. I would probably give it to the SINEs, because it's a really small difference, but the SINEs are just a bit more composed, a bit more focused in the overall impact. But in terms of the bass that I prefer, I think I would take the EL8's bass over it, because it's more fuller, and it actually has more of the actual frequency being presented to you. So you get that sub bass effect, you get that linear mid bass, and nothing is really being boosted over the other. But overall, they're both very, very good renditions of the bass response, which planar magnetics usually easily do. So I really don't have too much qualms with the bass presentation of these. They're both pretty much excellent in that field. But the EL8s extend better, and these are just a bit more focused. Moving over to the mid-range, once again, planar magnetics are usually very good for this, and thankfully, it's the same thing with these. So the mid-range is more to my liking on the SINEs. And the reason being is because with the EL8s, the mid-range sounds a tad bit laid back and a tad bit honky, like it's coming through like a cell phone in a sense. It kind of sounds cell phone like in comparison to the SINEs, which sounds a bit more fuller, a bit more natural. It has more heft to the lower regions of the mid-range to give the male vocals more of a more dominant presence. Female vocals still come through very nicely, very articulated, very clean and open. But in terms of the cleanliness of the mid-range and the qualities of the mid-range as opposed to the tonality, I would probably give it to the EL8s. But once again, it's a very close battle. I feel that the EL8s has a bit more articulation in the placements of instruments within that frequency response. It sounds a bit more effortless and more open, maybe due to the open back design. The mid-range just sounds more natural in terms of the presentation and feeling like it's actually something being performed in front of you. These sound a bit more closed in and more intimate. Some people actually might like that, though, in comparison to a more open, vast experience. They both really don't struggle at all in terms of revealing subtle textures and subtle harmonic overlays and details. Planar magnetics usually are very quick in terms of the transient response. So once again, I prefer the tonality of the SINEs, but I kind of prefer the quality of the EL8s and how it presents everything. Moving over to the treble now. Basically, I prefer the EL8 treble, and the reason why maybe is because of the over-ear design. It just sounds more airy and more effortless to me, more like it just sounds more linear and not so bluntly rolled off in a sense. These don't really sound rolled off as if they're dark. In comparison to my PM3s, which do actually sound dark, these sound more lively, energetic, and more you know, it has a better sense of pace, rhythm, and timing. So everything sounds very snappy and agile with these in comparison to the PM3s. But these sound a bit more snappy and agile than this, but it's not that big of a difference. They're pretty much well within the same region, but I guess it's like I keep saying. I think it's because of the over-ear design. The speaker can actually breathe a little bit more, and it's not just right up against your ear. So there's more air in between the eardrum and the speaker with this. So I think in theory it should get more air into the actual sound presentation, which I do in fact hear. In terms of the qualities of the treble, essentially I think the EL8s, actually sorry, the SINEs are a bit cleaner. I'm not too sure, but I'm not sure if it's the EL8s that's revealing maybe the flaws in the recording, but I think the SINEs sound a bit cleaner. But I've seen measurements on inner fidelity, and it kind of does back up my claims. The impulse response on the SINEs are cleaner than the impulse response on the EL8s. So I personally hear the SINEs as being a tad bit cleaner, but I prefer the presentation of the treble on the EL8s because it just sounds a bit more open, more expansive, and more enveloping than the SINEs, which has a more intimate and kind of like focused in sound. So moving over to the sound stage, it pretty much kind of like replicates what I said for the treble, and that is that the treble and the sound stage is just more open, articulated, in a sense that it kind of brings out more detail, while the details that I do here are a bit more cleanly rendered, but this kind of brings out more of that detail. So the soundstage on this is just bigger and more enveloping, and it should be. Look at the size of this thing; it's huge, and it has an over-ear design, while this is smaller. So if I had to choose between the both of them in terms of the overall sound quality, I would probably choose the EL8s. However, these are no slouch, and these do some things better, such as the composure and the tightness in the bass, and just the cleanliness of the sound, especially in the treble, is just a bit better on this. But the overall experience and the feeling of you actually being in the performance is better on this. It just sounds more open, more airy, and kind of more natural. And you really just can't go wrong with either. Now, diving into, for example, the cipher cable. I'm not sure if this is defective, but I do get sound from this out of my iPhone 6s Plus. It's just that it doesn't sound anywhere near as good as if I just plug this in directly into my home amplifier with the 3.5mm port. It sounds as if this has a kind of dynamic range compression going on when I have this near max volume on my iPhone, and the bass just doesn't sound, it just sounds quite distorted when a lot of bass kicks in, especially with my drum and bass tracks and some hip hop tracks. If I play that, it really sounds like the bass is distorting through the cipher cable near or at max volume. However, when I plug them in, like I said before, directly into my amplifier with its 3.5mm connection jack, which is this right here, it sounds marvelous. Tight, clean, composed, no issues. I just don't really believe that I mean, it's a nice concept, but I shouldn't expect much from an amplifier and digital and analog converter squeezed so tightly into something of this size and caliber. I don't have the cipher for the SINE, so I couldn't really see if it's the same thing for that, but I use this directly through the home amp, and once again, it sounds beautiful through that straight to the 3.5mm jack. So, if there's anything that I left out in this comparison review, pretty much feel free to post them below in the comments, and I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. Thanks for watching this two-way comparison of the Audeze EL8 closed-back titanium and the Audeze SINE closed-back on-ear. Later.